Hello everyone. Have you ever been debugging your code in browser and came across the thing called Symbol.iterator and thought to yourself, what the heck is this Symbol.iterator? Well, you are not alone. In this video, we are going to talk about what Symbol.iterator is and how it works. So, what is Symbol.iterator? In short, it's a built-in symbol in JavaScript that represents the default iterator of an object. Now, if you ask what is an iterator, well, iterator is an object that provides a way to access a collection of values one at a time in sequential manner. Okay. Now you might be thinking, what's the use of an iterator, right? So iterator are commonly used in JavaScript when you need to loop through an object such as array, set, map, etc. By default, these objects have an iterator that you can use to access their values one by one. So let's take an example of array, and if we have an array of number, we can use the built-in iterator to loop through its values. For example, if I have something called numbers, where I have this array called 1 2 3, and if I do for const num of number, console log number, and if I just go ahead and save this, run this code, let's run it. Node symbol.js, it should be able to print me 1 2 3, right? So in this example, if you see, like, we are using for loop to iterate over the values of the number of arrays, and under the hood, the for loop is using a default iterator of number array to access its values one at a time. Now you might be wondering, how does the default iterator work? How is it actually working under the hood, right? So basically, the default iterator for an object is a function that returns an object. So the default iterator looks something like this. Basically, there will be a function, which will be actually returning an object, which will have this method called next, and this next method has two properties. It returns actually two object where we have two properties, values and done, where the value property is the current value of the iterator, while the done property indicates whether the iterator has reached the end of the collection. Now let's try to create a custom iterator, and we'll be able to understand it better. So if we have arrays and maps, we know we have already a default iterator, but what if something which doesn't have these built-in iterations, how we can iterate over that? So let's try to do that. So let me create an object. I'll just get rid of this. Let's say I have an object and it has got a data. Let's call it 1 2 3, and now what I want is, every time I try to loop over this object, it should give me these values 1 2 3. And if I have to implement something like that, how can I do it? So let's define a default iterator for this. So what we can do is, we can say Symbol.iterator, and this should be a function actually. Okay, now this function should, as I talked earlier, right, this function should return an object which should have return method, which should again return the value and the next done properties. So let's try to do that. So firstly, what I'll do is, when my loop is running, I only want to get these values, right? So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and define an index, let's say 0 for now, and then I can have access this data. Let's say I call it data array, and this should be equal to this dot data. Okay, so now I have access to my data, and from in here I'll be returning an object which will have the next method, right? And this next method should return the value. So what I'll do is I'll say if my index is less than data array dot length. Okay, no, data array dot length. If that's the case, you need to return an object where value is going to be data array dot the value at that index, and done should be false at this point of time, right? And if you have reached the end, in that case you need to return done equals true. Okay, so this should be it. Let's try to run this code and see what's happening. So what I'll do here is I'll do for const value of object, and I'll do console log value. Let's save this and run this. Something is wrong. Wait, need to increment the index somewhere, right? Yep. So let's increment it here. Save it. Now run it. See, now you are seeing 1 2 3, right? So it is now iterating over this. So what we did here is let's understand this. So in this example, what we are doing is we are creating a custom iterator for this object, and this iterator returns values of the data property, right? Whatever values that we have in here. So we are using a symbol iterator to define the custom iterator, and inside this method we are returning an object and that object has a next method which in turn returns the data and the done state. So yeah, that's how these iterators works. Let's see one more use case, how it can help us. In this case, let's just define a plain object, and we'll try to access its values and key, and let's see how it works, how it goes. So what I'll say object, and here I'll have a properties, let's say a, or let's make it 1, b 2, c, make it 3, and let's say I want to loop over this. Okay, let's say I want to loop over this, something like for const let's say val, or yeah, let's val of object and console log val. If I try to run this code at this point of time, it is going to throw me an error. Let's see. If I just go ahead and save this and run this code, you'll see it gave me an error that object is not iterable, right? We cannot iterate over an object. So how do I make it iterable? Let's say I want to print this console log should actually print me an object, something like my value is 1, and let's say my key is a, and similarly for no, whatever key value pair that we have, I want to print it that. So if I have to do that, how can I do that, right? So let's try to do that. So again, same thing, we are going to define a symbol iterator, symbol.iterator, and again same stuff. This is going to return me an object which will have a next method, right, and that will return me again value and done, right? So let's try to fill this, populate this method. So what I'll do is I'll get all my keys here. So let's say I have this, and I will say object dot keys, and this will give me all the keys, right? Now let's have an index. Let's define an index which could start from 0, and what I'll say is here, if my index is less than let's say keys dot length, right? If it is less than that, that means we still have some keys to iterate over. So in this case, what I'll be doing is I'll be returning, copy it here also, and then my key will be keys index plus plus. This is going to be my key. So, and here what I want to do is I want to return an object in this case, right? So my key should be key, and then what I want to print, value only, right? So value should be this, we have access to this, and if I just do this dot key, then this should give me the value, right? And done should be false at this point of time, right? Okay, let's write else, and in else what I'll do is I need to return done is equal to true. We are done here, no value, right? Let's review this code once, and then we'll try to run. Okay, so we have a symbol iterator, we are getting all our keys, we have an index, and then as long as index is less than the number of keys, we try to access the key, and then value of it, we are returning it. Done is false. Once which matches the length of key, we do done true, and we just return it. So yeah, looks good so far. Let's try to run this, and our output should be a key as a, value as 1, and something like that. Let's try and run. Let's save this piece of code and run this code. Yeah, this is what we are getting, right? So now we are not getting any complaint that object is not iterable as such, and this is working. So yeah, this is how our iterators work in JavaScript, and this is how we can define a default iterator for an object using this symbol iterator. Yeah, that's it for symbol iterator in JavaScript. I hope this video has helped you understand what symbol iterator is and how it works. If you have any question, please leave them in comment section below. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you. Have a great day.